in practice, or what that looks like in realidad. What did I say earlier?
In reality.
Because I was mixing realidad and reality.
That's the real Spanglish right there.
Spanglish.
Literally the word realidad and reality.
Sorry, but you know how many times I do that when I overroll my R's in English? People look at me. Hi guys, welcome back to Hermosas Chicas Negras with your hosts, Paula,
Diane,
and Ayo.
your amigas en línea, here to keep you encouraged and accountable on your journey to Spanish conversational fluency.
Come on, today we are coming with the struggles.
Okay.
Right,
Yep.
we've spoken about the resources. We've spoken about that. Let's talk about the struggles. And this specific struggle that we're diving into has come from Celine, who specifically left us a comment on our Instagram. So, Diane, hey. What is the question from Celine?
Yes, let me read it off and kick us right off.
Yes.
Celine asks, what tips do you have on how to persevere with Spanish when you don't understand what's going on, i.e. listening to Spanish radio, podcasts, music, etc.?
Ooh.
Oh, I really like that question.
Yes.
So, first and foremost, Paula, let's go over to you, girl, actually.
Okay.
How would you answer that question, and can you relate to this struggle?
First of all, can I relate? Yes. Especially when she says when you don't know what's going on. So that's giving me like maybe you don't fully understand the context or you don't know enough vocabulary on what's being said. So you're just a bit like lost.
Yeah.
And then obviously we've spoken multiple times about how native speakers often speak really fast. And that's in any language because in English
Yeah.
we speak fast.
Yeah.
So I defo relate. What was the first part of your question?
Tips on how to persevere.
Tips on how to persevere. Just realize and tell yourself that it won't always be like this. Like there will be a point that you can understand most things and that
Yeah.
you won't be as confused. And also to note that as it happens. So even like 1 month, 2 months, 3 months in, I was not understanding most things. I was very confused when people were speaking. But, you know, a year in, I'm now 2 years in, I definitely still have times where I'm not fully getting understanding or keeping up with, you know, radio, podcasts, or whatever's being said. But it's a lot more than before. And acknowledging that makes me want to continue going
That's
to
so
the point
good.
that it's fluent and I'm not struggling at all. So
Really, really good. Really, really good. What about yourself, Ayo? Can you relate, and how did you overcome it as well?
So I would say definitely, it's interesting that you said that because I definitely 100% can relate. And even being, you know, at the intermediate / advanced stage, I would definitely say that there are still things that I still don't understand. So it's almost as well like acknowledging, sorry, there's really something on my eye right now. It's almost acknowledging that not like the goalpost always changes, but then like the more advanced we get, there's always going to be some level of certain things that we just don't understand. So that's just to encourage us all as well to be like, it's a continuing journey. So yes, I can relate. And what I'm doing to persevere is honestly just sticking through it and reminding myself why I'm doing this. Because Diane, like you were testament for the fact that, you know, I delivered my first ever 90-minute interactive workshop.
And it was fantastic.
Thank you. Completely in Spanish. I was so nervous. Like before the call, I was like, Diane, I don't, like literally we had to pray because I was like, Diane, like I don't think I could do, I was so nervous. But even in that workshop, they were responding to me with things saying like, and they like, yo creo que, like speaking muy rápido, o sea, rapidísimo. I didn't understand everything. But I'm now at the stage where even though I don't understand everything, I just literally keep on listening and focus on the bits that I do understand. And it's just the way, so coming to the solution, how I've persevered is just honestly sticking through it.
Yeah.
So it's like sticking through it, you get to a place where you realize that this mountain will seize, this mountain will move.
Yeah.
So that's what I'd say.
That's really, really good.
Yeah.
I definitely think this is a very common struggle because as you're learning another language, of course you're not going to understand.
Yeah.
You know, it's a
Yeah.
whole nother language. And I would say as far as overcoming not being able to understand, I think first and foremost, it's about acquiring the language, and you acquire a language literally just by input, first and foremost. Like as kids, we learn based on what we hear. Like if you hear your mum referring to a biscuit as a biscuit enough times, you're going to call it a biscuit.
That's
you
so
know what I
good.
mean? So I think learning just to be okay with not understanding everything.
Yeah.
And then based on what you're studying, or if you're having a conversation, for example, with somebody, picking out the words that you do know and
Yes.
speaking on that.
Exactly.
Because fake it till you make it.
Girl.
It's literally like you can understand it. They will think that you understood more than what you actually did.
Right.
And also, I would actually say, when it comes to persevering, I think, as Paula was saying, just accepting the fact that, like, it's all right not to understand everything at the very beginning.
Yeah.
And as you rightly said, that happens throughout the journey. Because I think one thing that people often do is get frustrated because they think
that's
that
true.
I'm not at the level to understand. But really and truly, there will always be more that you don't understand, no matter what your level is.
Absolutely.
So no comparison. Allow yourself to be where you are. And just start small.
Yeah.
Start small.
Even this is such a like practical thing, but two practical things. Number one, Spanglish is your best friend. Okay.
Yes.
Deanne taught me this because sometimes I don't know the word and I'll just be like, do you know, like, and just speaking in Spanglish and continuing. I feel like
What is Spanglish, by the way?
like Spanish and English together, like different words, just going in between the two languages. Especially when you are speaking to a speaker who can speak English as well, as a lot of Spanish speaking people, especially in the UK, can do that, or in the States as well. And then secondly, girl, como se dice, okay? I feel like we need to not underestimate how useful it has just having certain phrases.
Yes.
For me, in the office, I have quite a few Spanish-speaking colleagues that as soon as they found out that I'm learning Spanish, get a bit too excited and they'll just like go ham at me. And I always have ready, más lento, por favor. Más,
good. No, that's
más,
really
más,
good.
más lento, por favor. So that they will slow down, which means
Slow down,
more slowly,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
And straight away they're like, oh, okay. And then they'll like calm down and then like speak to you slowly. Because sometimes it's not necessarily that you're not understanding. It's just your brain isn't actually like putting the words as words in your head.
That's so
So
good.
once you do actually clock what they're saying, like, oh, da, 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 da.
Yeah.
So,
No, that's really, really good. On that, sorry.
No, I was just gonna say
Yeah,
the
go,
image I literally had in my mind as you said that was like a processor, like you know, like when you see those like a million and one
Yeah.
things going like that. What we put on our Instagram, like literally just like so many things going on at once when you can't process it.
No, I was just going to say on that point, I think it would be really good for us to give those who are learning those small phrases. So, for example, one of those would be como se dice, but another one would be que dijiste. And que dijiste means what did you say?
Correct.
So,
Que
can you guys
dijiste.
think of any other ones? We have como se dice, or you said más lento, por
yeah,
favor.
más lento, por favor, is
Do we have
always.
any more?
Más lento, por favor. I sometimes say lo que estoy intentando decir, what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Because
Lo que
estoy intentando
intentando
decir.
decir.
That's
Because sometimes
what I'm trying to say,
yeah,
or what I mean.
Yeah, what I'm trying to say because but that's more of like a response
struggling.
as
Yeah.
opposed to receiving.
Receiving.
So
No,
but
that's good
were you
though.
gonna say something about this is lifetime thinking, by the way.
Yeah.
Any
This wasn't a
other
part of the
ones?
script, guys. Keep them on their toes.
I know, right?
What about what do you mean?
Or like, ¿qué significas? ¿Qué significas?
Yeah, maybe
Yeah, like
¿qué
what do you, that is
significas?
literally like, what do you
Or
mean?
what does that
Or
mean?
¿qué significa eso? ¿Qué
What that
significa
says?
eso? What does that
That
mean?
mean, yeah.
See, or no entiendo.
That
No,
is the
no entiendo is
No
basic.
entiendo.
That's really, really good. How did
even
you get that
sometimes
one?
no entiendo. Even sometimes te entiendo. So that they know you actually understand.
Yeah, no, that's good.
Because
That's good.
you know we talked about I don't know if we've spoken about it on the podcast, but everyone has this like and there's whole like Spanish channels and YouTube videos based on it of the dream as a Spanish learner or as a language learner that you'll be somewhere and they'll be talking about you and you're like turn around and be like te entiendo, like you actually understand them. So even just having that to say like because if they could look at you and your face is showing I'm just trying to process what you're saying.
Yeah.
Sometimes you get to the end of that process and you actually understand.
Yeah.
And they're still trying to help you understand. And you're like, no, te entiendo. Like,
Yeah. No, that's
so
good.
that's a good one to know as well.
And on that point, really quickly, you just reminded me, sometimes I've had to say to people that I'm learning with to not be so quick to correct me because sometimes I found it, like there was one tutor I was working with quite a while ago, every time I would make a mistake, she'd be quick to, and I'd be like, can you just give me room to actually try and process what you're saying? Because naturally in English, I'm able to process this in 0.000 seconds, but in Spanish, it might take me 1 second, right? So instead of you correcting me, I need that time. So also not being afraid to be like, te entiendo, and also, un momento, por favor,
Yeah.
necesito
Un
pensar.
momento.
Like,
Un momento, por
think
favor.
about it, un momento,
What
por
was
favor,
that?
necesito pensar.
Yeah.
Like
that's
literally,
good.
I need to think. So
Yeah.
that is also
That's actually a really good one because sometimes when you do tell people, I'm learning, it's out of being helpful.
Yeah.
Because my colleagues
Yes.
do the same thing. And I'll be like, sis, 1 second.
Yeah.
Like, uno momento. And I will get back to you because I know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Like,
No,
yeah,
that's
it's really good. That was a good tip,
That
like a nice little...
We love that. We're here for the
Pivots.
tips. We're here for the tricks, you know?
pivots, you
No,
know?
100%.
Absolutely.
I would say just one more, but this is more like if you're speaking to your friends, don't be speaking to like your bosses. But I say when I'm speaking to my friends a lot, keke, which is literally what, but I mean it like what?
What?
What? Like what?
Okay.
What did
I
you
like
say?
that, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's another one to
Is that
say.
República Dominicana? Oh, ¿cómo se dice?
No, I started saying that when I was in Spain.
I feel like I've heard it
okay.
in Spain, you know.
Yeah.
From
Interesting.
Spanish shows, I've heard it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like, what? What did you say? Like, say it again. I missed that, basically.
Okay. Oh.
I like
Yeah,
that.
was another
Okay.
one.
Say
Love that for
no.
you. Love that for you guys also. I told you we're
Yeah.
coming with the real tips and tricks.
The
this year,
real
boy.
tips. Oh my god.
Real tips and tricks this season. Okay.
love that.
So, rounding off on that struggle, because I think one thing that we want to be really, really transparent about in this podcast is that language learning as a whole comes with highs and it comes with lows.
Highs
Literally.
and
Lows.
It literally comes with highs and lows. Like there are parts of it that are really, really great, but there are also parts that are struggles. And I think for me, it's really, really important that even at our levels, as we sit here, there are still struggles and there are still things that we're learning. So we don't do comparison over here. So wherever you are, understand that yes, there will be struggles, but there will also be highs. And even where we are, where people are looking at us like, oh my gosh, like they really, really speak this thing and da-da-da-da-da. There are still highs and there are still most definitely lows. So we wanted to be really, really transparent about that.
Yeah.
So as far as what we refer to as #language learning struggles, and if you have any, make sure to let us know on our socials, comment under a post with the #language learning struggles.
Yes.
And you might feature in a new episode.
Okay.
Right? So girls, what would you say some of your language learning struggles were at the beginning of
Oh,
your
at the
journey?
beginning.
Whoever
Do
wants
you want me
to
to go
take it.
first?
I don't know why I just
You wanted to be Okay, so no, this is no surprise. Everyone knows this. If you're new around here, welcome. But I just wouldn't speak. I just wouldn't open my mouth. I wouldn't speak. I just was terrified of sounding like a fool. And you know,
I was really trying not to check. I was like, not a fool.
not a fool. And I'm not here for that. And even just down to like, you know, they talk about like Spanish speakers, especially Latin American speakers, talk about like the gringo accent. I said it's not gonna be me. I know that's normally like American people that's trying to speak Spanish. I said it's not me that's gonna be sounding like this when I'm trying to speak Spanish. So I just was like, oh, you know what's even better than not sounding like that? Not talking. That was a real struggle. And in terms of how I overcame it, slowly. Very slowly. But you know, abre la boca.
That's right.
Open your mouth and speak. And you know, having encouragement to speak. And then even just down to small things, like I would do an Instagram story where I'd just be like, hey guys, it's Paula, welcome back to my channel. No, joking. Hey guys, it's me. You know, today I'm practicing my Spanish. And I'll just say all of this in Spanish. And it started from me trying to do this like monthly or whatever, and it would take me like 20 takes, 25 takes and stuff like that, to me doing it as recently as a couple weeks ago or last week or something, and it took me 3 takes.
Oh, I
And I was like,
Come
I
on,
remember
come
because
on.
one of my friends who was also learning Spanish DM'd me, was like, oh, you're so fluent. I was like, I sent him a screenshot. Are you joking? It's not me that will help you feed into a fake reality that's not true. I sent him a screenshot and I was like, look how many takes it took me. But legit, the other day, I was even running late. A bus was coming. I did it in like 2 takes. And I posted it.
Great.
And then it was actually you. You
So
messaged,
good.
Yes, I did.
you voice noted me. You were
Yes, I
like,
did.
to see how you've been, I was like, girl. She basically really encouraged me, just said like, I see how you now do this often and confidently. And that was just so nice. So that's kind of how I've not fully overcome it, but overcome it a lot more.
Yeah.
Really
good.
Oh, come on with the inspiration.
Girl, you know, that's what I'm here for.
I would say my biggest thing, and that I'm slowly but surely overcoming more and more, is making mistakes. And that even ties into just like human nature, where we can be very afraid to want to make mistakes, whether it comes with our confidence, our self-esteem, our workplaces. And that just also comes into language learning, right? So it was that whole thing of no quiero cometer un error. Like, no quiero decir, no sé si mi tenso pasado, mi gramática es perfecta y todo eso.
las.
Oh,
Exactly,
girl.
los, las,
Incorrect
like, you know,
object
the pronouns, like the past tense, like all of that just being, you know, incorrect. And when I think about the reason, going a bit deeper, why I don't want to say, for example, make mistakes, I just think society, we can feed into this idea that life needs to be perfect 24/7.
Yeah.
So with that whole thing, it's like sometimes we want to present our best selves kind of thing, and that's not the reality. And that's one of the things that we're really seeking to do with this, because it's not all roses all the time. And that, you know, the call before the session is just an example of that. Like, I really just, you know, don't want to sometimes find myself not wanting to make mistakes. But something that my coach Marcela said to me, she was like, Ayo, so context, let me rewind. And I don't even know if I shared this with you at the time, but when I was doing this presentation, I was going to come on with my highlights, with my bio, you know, international speaker, author, whatnot, YouTube channel, And literally God said to me, Ayo, hide all of those slides. I didn't really understand why at the time, but like, hide all those slides. And then when I was running it back with my coach, basically, you know, this is what I want to present. She said, Ayo, you know, if she was like, Ayo, tu taller es sobre autoestima, ¿no? Your workshop is about self-esteem, ¿no? And I said, sí, claro que sí. Well, if you present this perfect idea, you, Ayo, all of these amazing stuff, Ayo, they're not going to be able to relate to you. And when she said that to me, I was like, oh my gosh. That for me was like, okay, let me come into this workshop with my grammatical errors. Let me come in humble enough to be like, ¿cómo se dice? Because realmente yo no sé cómo se dice eso, right? Like, and that for me is something that I'm constantly having to remind myself to overcome.
That's really, really good.
That's
good. Love that for you. Love that for
Really
you.
good.
Yeah.
I would say for me, as far as struggles in the beginning, which we actually touched upon in season 1, was comparison. Oh, comparison? Especially because I am overcoming this, but I had some real strong perfectionist tendencies. So I always compared myself to native speakers, which is so dumb.
Oh my gosh.
No disrespect.
They came out the womb speaking it.
So silly.
Not womb.
Emphasis.
Literally though. Like, they had grown up around it. And even if they
See?
didn't, they had exposure.
Yeah.
What exposure do you have that you're comparing yourself to someone who has been a part of this thing
See?
and that you just made a conscious decision
Sí.
to participate in?
Tienes razón, mi
You
amor.
know? So that comparison led me to a similar issue like Paula, where I did not speak. And if you watch season 1, you would know I had mentioned it. I was paying for lessons weekly. What? Weekly. Hour-long lessons. My teacher would be speaking to me in Spanish. I'd be replying in English. And this happened. Literally, Celine, if you're watching, which I know you are, the same one who asked the question.
Oh, yeah.
Because we were living together in uni at the time. And she would always be like, Tian, just speak. Like, just talk. And I'd be like, no, I can't speak because I'm going to get it wrong.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense for me to speak. I'm just going to speak like once I'm fluent, once
Yeah.
I'm perfect.
Yep.
Babes, do you know how long it's going to be before that happens? It doesn't make sense. So comparison was a really, really big thing for me. And
Yeah,
like
so
not
good.
wanting to get things wrong
So
because
good.
of perfectionism. As far as how I overcame it, how did I... Do you know what? It was a lot of encouragement, first and foremost. Like, my mum would really, really encourage me to speak, even though she didn't understand what I was saying. It was about fostering an environment where I didn't feel like I was going to get judged for saying something wrong.
That's really good.
You know?
No, wheel it up. Fostering an environment for what?
Yeah, fostering an environment for, or like, I guess, a lack of judgment so that I didn't feel a way about
safe
getting
space,
things,
yeah.
That's so
getting
good.
things wrong. So that was a major, major thing that helped me. And
So
also just understanding, like, putting myself in a position of a child, in that I'm coming into this thing fresh.
Yeah.
I have no background. Yes, I'm Cuban, but my family, unfortunately, does not speak Spanish.
Right.
So I have to, well, Jamaican and Cuban, just for reference before people come for me, meaning my family. But I don't have a frame of reference for this language. So I'm coming in as a child, and as a child learns, you won't speak perfectly from the
Yeah.
beginning, and that's perfectly okay.
Same.
Yeah. So I would say that was definitely my struggle at the beginning.
Yeah.
Now we're going to get into the real tea.
Present day.
The real tea, which is our struggles now.
Yeah.
I'm going to let you ladies take the floor on this one first.
I'm happy to start. Okay. So my current struggle with Spanish is it's no longer my priority. And I feel like this is like, woo! She's bringing it to the podcast.
Be real.
No, Paula, you need to increase your volume. Increase it. Because the rules turn it up.
Seriously.
Yeah. The reason I want to bring it here is you're gonna be watching us thinking, wow, these ladies eat, sleep, and breathe Spanish. Beloved. Beloved.
She's been had to adjust herself. I was so
Let's sit up a little bit.
Beloved. No, all jokes aside, when I first started, we were literally in the middle of a global pandemic. I lived in a completely different city, completely far away from my family and friends, and I was by myself for maybe 10 days straight at a time. I needed hobbies. I was like, it was not a great time mentally. I just needed to do something. And I was supposed to go and live in Madrid, as we know. So I decided to pick up Spanish as, okay, I have time now. So I was spending hours a day. That's why that initial growth was so exponential.
Yeah.
And we talk about, the intermediate plateau. Because you're no longer just learning new words every day. It's no longer a cat is gato. Like, it's no longer that anymore. So you're kind of like, wait, where's the high coming from now? Like, I know these things. And I was experiencing that. But at the time, priority was Spanish. So I was doing it a huge amount and I was using so many different resources. I've now changed. It's been 2 years. We're kind of coming out of a pandemic. I'm in a very different stage of my life right now where, work is a huge priority for me. My business is a huge priority for me. My friends and family are a huge priority for me. Spanish is it's not number one, which means I'm not spending hours every day practicing Spanish actively. I'm not doing that. And so even some of the tips that we mentioned about doing things that we normally do in English, just doing them in Spanish is my saving grace. Genuinely, if I wasn't doing Spanish passively, I don't think I would even be qualified to be a HCN sister right now. Because genuinely, I almost started slowly going back into not speaking, and it wasn't now fear, it was just I didn't have time. I didn't have time. So I think what my current struggle is, it's not a priority, and so I lack motivation to do it. But the way I've overcome that is by replacing a lot of my active learning with passive learning at the moment. And also believing that that's actually okay. You're not going to be in the same stage of your life for your whole entire life, especially as a young woman with things changing all the time. They'll get to another stage where I want to do it again as actively as I did before. But right now, I'm very much enjoying, reading my Bible, having my phone in Spanish, watching my shows in Spanish, but I'm not actively doing as much learning as I used to. I'm speaking a lot more, actually, because I know more Spanish-speaking people and feeling a lot more confident to do so. But the current struggle is no longer a struggle for me because I've given myself breathing space to live. I've forgiven myself for not being, on it. Not because I hate the language, but just right now it's not priority.
Come on. Now, can we have a moment of silence for the transparency?
I'm screaming.
No, honestly, because this is the realness of it. And I'm really glad that you did share that because we're not trying to present something that we're not. We're not trying to be like, oh, so we are las maestras, no, de este idioma. See? And it's no. So yeah, no, I love that. So my response to the question, my current struggle is proving to myself that I know the language.
Ooh.
And
no, that's deep.
Hair flick. And what that looks like in practice, or what that looks like in realidad. What did I say earlier?
She said in reality.
Because I was mixing realidad.
That's the real Spanglish right there.
Spanglish.
Literally the word realidad and reality.
Reality. How many times I do that when I overroll my R's in English? And people look at me I speak to, amor is quite a well-known Spanish word. A lot of English speakers know amor is love. I was talking to my boyfriend about love, and he was like, amor. He was like, what? I was like, amor. He was like, what? It's like amor. It's amor. Amor.
Sorry, I just remember. That is so funny.
So no, that's okay. So what that looks like in realidad is that I'll be reading, so for like we've mentioned already, for me just having Spanish be part of my life, which is my Bible, I'll be reading my Bible and then I'm reading the commentary, pero no entiendo esa palabra en ese momento. And then my mind is like, pero tú hablas español, ¿no? ¿Por qué no sabes esto? Like, you speak Spanish, no? Why don't you know this? You should know this. And then because I'm trying to prove myself that I should know this, I then don't have the humility to either type in on Google the word and then significado, or read it. I will carry on reading it to understand the context in most cases, but sometimes I just don't because it's a new word. The context isn't making sense. And the Bible can be challenging to read in English. And now I'm doing it in Spanish, and then I'm still beating myself up. So that is my biggest struggle that I'm really overcoming, that I'm going through at the moment. Yeah. And the way I'm overcoming it, honestly, is having like Senora Marcela speak to me, because sometimes I'll be like, no, I should have done this. And she'll be like, ayo, like, no pasa nada, no te preocupes. And like, sometimes I can find that like when she then does ask me a question and maybe I don't understand it, or I'm just having like a really long day, and I'm like, I then feel like my guard is going up because I feel like she's asking me something and then I should know it. And then there's this expectation that you speak Spanish, so, you know, you make no mistakes. So like I was saying, like, there was this opportunity that, they were looking for some freelance speakers to deliver this workshop. But because the workshop was specifically about a specific topic, which is to do like relationships and stuff like that, healthy relationships, I didn't put myself forward because I was like, there's this expectation that porque yo hablo español, yo sabe todo, pero eso no es mi realidad, like my reality, right? So I would say that's my biggest struggle at the moment, and I'm overcoming it through the help of Senora Marcela and also the Holy Spirit, because he really be helping me and being in the Word. So
that's really, really good.
How about you, Deanne?
Actually, mine ties quite heavily into yours in the same way that comparison was an issue for me when I first started. I would say it's still an issue for me now, but in a different way. So before, I was comparing myself to other people, mainly native speakers or people who had learned Spanish in a rapid amount of time.
Right.
Now, which is so
I know what you're going to say.
I compare myself to where I was and where I should be. Where I was, because as you guys know, as I've mentioned a couple of times, I lived in Spain for 10 months, right? And when I was there, as much as I wasn't allowed to speak Spanish at work, I was in Spain. Everything was in Spanish. Yeah. So I was speaking daily, no issue. Obviously learning a lot, making mistakes, but I was very, very much frequently speaking Spanish. And then I came home in 2019, right? And that was no longer the case. And really, truly, like, I fell off for a very long period of time, wasn't working, the pandemic hit, I was having my own, like, mental health issues and struggles and stuff. So Spanish was just not a priority. Like you say, things change. Yeah. So for me, I was really, really comparing myself to not only where I was, but where I could have been if I didn't stop. And because, like, I have been learning Spanish, like I said, from when I was in secondary school. I've taken many pauses from Spanish between then and now. And it's like, how far could you have been if you just stuck at it? How much could you have been able to, like, speak if you just stuck at it? Yeah. And that's something that was going on up until, like, literally a couple of days ago, where I really just had to sit down with myself and be like, okay, cool. What was the reason, number one, that you took your pauses? Because I'm judging my past self for something without understanding the context surrounding the situation. Wow. So I took a pause in 2019, which was a really long pause, because number one, I was no longer in a Spanish-speaking country, so all of the passive learning, it wasn't as easy anymore. I had to make the intentional choice, even if the learning was passive, to interact with Spanish in that way. Also, we were in the pandemic in 2020. In a literal pandemic. And I was literally struggling. Like, literally mentally struggling. So what I was doing as a priority during that time was going to therapy. Yeah. Spanish was not, like, my mental health was the priority. So I had to really just give myself grace over that period of time. Because I was like, I was doing what I was supposed to be doing in that moment. And what I was supposed to be doing in that moment was taking care of myself. Right. Spanish is secondary to me being here and me being present and actually enjoying my life. Do you know what I mean? So for me, I had to really just sit down with myself and have that conversation of, okay, what was the pause? Why did it happen? Where do we go from here? And that second part of where do we go from here was me acknowledging I may not be where I want to be or could have been or should be, but I'm here.
Come on.
I'm here.
That part.
I've
So
learned
good.
so much. I can speak. I can have conversations with people, and it's usually other people that are like you speak like you're fine. It's fine. Da, 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 da. But for me, I had to come to an acceptance of this is where I'm at. And if I want to learn more, and if I want to recall the things that yes, I have forgotten, I just have to go back. I just have to study it again.
Come on.
And I just have to make sure that I retain it. I do things that retain the language, but give yourself grace because you are where you are now. You can't change the past. And really and truly, I don't know that even if I had continued during all of the pauses, that I would be as far ahead as I think I would have been in my head. Who knows? You don't actually know. Like, anything could have happened. I could have been studying in the wrong ways because I didn't know what was effective for me back in the day,
Yeah,
So
true.
who is to say what could have been? But I do know what I have right now is the opportunity to learn the things that I don't know, study the things that I don't know, make time for Spanish in the ways that are good and comfortable and fit into my lifestyle as of right now to get me further than I am. But where I am is a good enough place to start,
Una bomba. Una palabra.
That's good.
¿Cómo se dice?
Sazón.
Sazón, sal,
Yeah.
todas esas cosas, ¿no?
Sazón.
It took me a while. That's too funny. I was
Yeah.
like, wait.
No, definitely. Okay, so with that said, I think, like we said in the beginning, it's really, really important for us to let you guys know that struggle is not a consistent part. Well, I guess challenges are a consistent part
Yeah.
of language learning.
And
that
life.
is- and life. And that's okay. Give yourself grace. But what would you say are your takeaways from this episode as a whole on the topic of struggle? Language learning struggles, to be specific.
Kicking us off with that, I would definitely say that struggling is a part of the process, but then also struggling in, okay, so twofold. Struggling in community is really important
yes.
because oftentimes when we're struggling away, we want to lean out. Sorry, like I need to make sure you can still hear me. We want to lean away and isolate ourselves. And that's where shame can kick in and all of these feelings of self-doubt. Whereas actually if we lean into a community, for you, that community might be just sharing it with your friend who is learning a language or who isn't learning a language and just getting what's in here because up here is so crowded, getting it out. There's so much power in that. And then the second takeaway for me and what I love in this whole thing is that there's so much power in sharing real life struggles because then it empowers, you listening to this and then other people. So yeah, those are my two takeaways from the topic as a whole.
That's really good. I can go. So my takeaway for this episode is that, kind of following on from what you said, but struggles are a consistent part of, or language learning struggles are a consistent part of your language learning journey, but those struggles will change each time.
Oh,
So
That's really good.
good.
So the current one that you have right now, not as much as I'm not saying you should treasure it or enjoy it, but just be aware that this won't be forever.
That's
really
this will pass. This too will pass. This will move on. And once I've passed through it, this struggle won't be the same struggle again. Even if it does come back, it won't come back in the same way. Even like Deanne was saying is, I'm comparing myself to my past self. That struggle is not exactly the same as the comparison as it was before.
Yeah.
Like you will not, once you have passed this, you have passed this level.
Yeah.
There's no, you've been demoted. Like no matter what the change is, you will be stronger enough to kind of battle the next thing that comes your way. So, especially specifically with language learning. And so I think I've learned that it's okay if you feel like, wow, this is just hard all the time. That change or that experience will be different each time. And each time you overcome it, like you're still here, aren't you? You're still listening to this, aren't you? You're still watching this, aren't you? So you haven't given up.
Really good.
Wow.
Really good, actually. That was giving profound.
Watching this back, you might just see me looking at you sometimes. I was really processing that information. It was really, that was heartfelt.
Giving deep.
Thanks.
Really giving deep.
Giving deep vibes.
This is what we're saying, community is important, man. These need to be gassing me all the time, bro. I'm like, I have really high self-esteem as it is, but the way my friends gas me up, oh my gosh. Like,
Love that for you, sis.
love it.
As far as myself, I would say the takeaway has been give yourself grace and know that this isn't a competition. Like learning a language is not a competition. You're free and able to go at your own pace. You're in your own journey.
True.
And I think that gave me real solace in that there is going to be someone who has learned Spanish for even longer than I've been learning and stopped. And now they're having to start from the beginning again. So know that your journey, no matter what it is, will be an impactful one. So don't be ashamed of it and give yourself grace along the way.
That's so
100%.
good. No, this was a really good episode. This is, I think, might have been my favorite so far of series
that.
2.
I love that.
I really like it.
Okay, so that was it for this episode. Like Paula said, I think this was also one of my faves. I'm not gonna lie, I feel like we really dropped some real gems here, and I hope that you guys really found it helpful.
Yeah.
But in the next episode, we are going to be talking about, can you actually learn Spanish while living in the UK or a non-Spanish speaking country? Because not everybody has move abroad money.
That's good. That's good.
And that's on period.
That's
so
good.
that's what we're going to be talking about. I'm really, really excited for that particular episode.
Yeah, you can follow us on Instagram at Hermosas Chicas Negras. All of our links will be down below. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure to leave a little like and comment down below. We love to read your comments. Honestly, we get so gassed in the group chat. If you're listening to this on Spotify or any of the other podcasting platforms, make sure to give us a rating. Really helps us with the algorithm, gets people knowing about us as well.
Absolutely.
And yeah, what else do they need to do?
We would really love for you to join our community list. So it's just literally letting you know all the upcoming stuff we have in the future. At the moment, at the time of recording this, we don't have a weekly newsletter. We literally just want to keep you informed with things that will be happening in the future. So literally just sign up to our community list. But that is all for episode 3 of season 2. Ciao!